You're listening to the Life Coaching Secrets Podcast, episode 226. Did you know that life coaches are needed now more than ever? I'm Frank Macri, founder of Thriving Coach Academy. I've trained over 1,000 coaches and helped them launch their own successful coaching businesses. If you want to make an incredible income and impact as a coach and have a lot of fun doing it, I'll show you exactly how to get it done. This is Life Coaching Secrets. What's up, coaches? I've got a little throwback for you today. I pulled an episode from the archives that I feel is just as important now as it was when I first released it years ago. It was one of our most shared episodes, and I know you're going to love hearing it again. Hope you enjoy.
In this episode, I'm going to talk about probability versus possibility. Now, this is a really important distinction for you to have, whether you're a coach or whether you're a human. I think it's important for all people to understand. I want to give a quick shout out as I lead into this topic to one of our graduates through Thriving Coach Academy for having a really awesome milestone in her business. Her name's Faye, and she recently led a workshop in person, which is super cool that workshops are a thing again. And she said that she was able to speak in front of a large group of people and had a handful of people reach out after the workshop to engage with her about continuing to work with her, which is super cool. So big congrats to Faye. And one of the cool things we give our students in the academy is done-for-you workshop guides and resources to help you craft really powerful workshops, and also webinars if you're looking to have online workshops for people that you want to serve. So congrats, Faye, and keep us posted with more success that you're having. All right, so let's go into today's topic, possibility versus probability. When you think about those words, what do you think is the difference between possibility and probability? Whenever you have a goal in your life, when you're working with clients, you want to make sure that they are focusing on possibility, okay? For any goal in your life, this is one of the keys to be successful. This is a great distinction that you can educate and share with your clients. So here's a quick story to help illustrate the importance of focusing on possibility over probability. So a while back, we had a student in the academy, and she was approaching the end of her coach training. And at the end of our program, we do have a final exam. We have a final exam that has students evaluated on various different criteria on their coaching, and there also is a multiple choice exam that goes along with that. So a student asked what the passing rate was for the final exam. And to be transparent, not every single student who has taken the final exam has passed. And the good news, though, is that students are able to retake the exam, and we provide feedback to students on where they can improve their coaching and clean up the areas that they needed to clean up. So we support our coaches if they don't pass the final exam. However, when the student asked this question, I didn't answer her. I did not tell the student what the passing rate was about the final exam, because I told the student that information is not useful. Because what happens sometimes in our brain when we have a goal is we think, well, what's the probability that I have to be successful? And when you hear that, your brain starts to lump itself into that. So for example, if I were to tell a student, well, there's a 50% chance that you will pass or fail. There's a 50% passing rate. That's just a made up number. Then what that does is the brain latches onto that and goes, okay, well, I guess that means you have a 50% chance of passing as well, because that's been the case for other people. But instead, how I answered the student, as I said, that, rather than giving you the passing rate and telling you the probability of success, I want you to focus on the possibility of your success, the possibility of you passing the exam. Why is it possible for you to pass this exam? What makes it possible for you to be successful? And the student started sharing all of the reasons why she sees herself to pass and why it's possible for her to pass and be successful. And after she shared that, I asked her how she felt. And she said that she felt so much more encouraged and motivated, and she was grateful that I didn't share the passing rate of the final exam. And I want you to think about how that can encourage you with any kind of goal that you might have in your own life, focusing on the possibility instead of the probability. So here's another example. You may know that one of the most selective universities to get acceptance into is Harvard University. And I remember when I was applying to colleges years ago, there was about a 3 to 5% acceptance rate to get into Harvard. And I think it might be around the same from the day I'm recording this episode. That is the probability of getting into Harvard. But if you're looking to get into Harvard, there's no use putting your focus on that 5% acceptance rate, right? If you instead focus on the possibility of your success, then you're much more likely to prepare yourself to get into Harvard when you start thinking about how it's possible, right? Because when you start thinking that things are possible, you motivate yourself to take the action necessary to make things possible. I'll say that again. When you start focusing on what's possible, you start taking the actions necessary to make things possible. If you focus on the probability of success, you go, well, 5% is really low, so it's not probable that I will be successful. There are so many things in life that your success is not really probable to have, but you're still able to be successful in it anyway. So when you have a goal, you must focus on the possibility of your success with that goal. The probability, that's not relevant. That's not useful information. Okay? It might be factual. There might be real data to prove it, but that doesn't mean that you need to focus on it. That doesn't mean that you need to integrate that information into your way of being, into your way of showing up. So here's another example. When you are dating, let's imagine you're single, or think about the time in your life when you're single, or maybe you are a relationship coach helping single individuals. The probability that you will meet the love of your life when you go on a date is very low when you think about it, right? I mean, yes, there are outliers. There are exceptions with people that say, the first person I went on a date with, I fell in love and we got married and we've been together forever. Sure, those stories happen, but the probability of that happening is actually really low. But if you focus on that, how does that impact one's willingness to show up on a date? It discourages you from doing it when you think about the probability. And when you're discouraged, you're less likely to show up on dates. You're less likely to put yourself out there because you're feeling so discouraged. So the result that you create is the exact outcome that you don't want. But it's not because of the probability, right? And then when you're single and alone, you think, well, the probability was so low anyway. But it's not because of the probability. It's because you never focused on the possibility. And that is so key for you and your clients to understand. You're not considering what's possible. A lot of people don't consider what's possible because they haven't been taught to do so. They don't know how to dream. One of the episodes that I had so much fun making on this podcast was an episode called How to Dream. Because as adults, and even as adults, we're not taught how to do this. As children, we do it automatically, and then something changes where a lot of people just forget how to imagine possibilities, how to dream. Episode 32 is called How to Dream, and I encourage you to listen to that if you want to expand on what I'm talking about here. So when you are focusing on the probability of something and not the possibility, it's like you're giving up ahead of time. You're deciding to fail ahead of time. So let's talk about possibility, because a lot of you and a lot of your clients are getting so wrapped up and distracted in probability that you're letting that define you and you're letting that limit your life. Possibility is what allows for new results to be created. You must focus on possibility. Possibility is not about needing evidence in order to believe something. Whenever you're creating a new result or new goal in your life, new outcome, you don't need to have evidence before you can pursue it, before you can create it. I didn't have evidence that I could make multiple six figures a year as a coach before I made multiple six figures a year as a coach. right? I didn't have any evidence of it, but what I believed in was the possibility of being able to create that outcome. So in your life right now, how much do you believe in new possibility? How much time do you devote to focusing on new possibilities? How much time do you spend exploring new possibilities? And if you find that you don't do that right now, I invite you to play in the world of possibility. Give yourself permission to consider new possibilities. Because if you're not exploring new possibilities, your energy is just focused on maintaining your current circumstances. And that might work for you until it doesn't. And for a lot of people, when they look to hire a coach, or even when they look to become a coach, they're at a turning point in their life. They're at a crossroads where they realize what used to work is no longer working. And in order to take that next step, in order to see your coaching business take off, you must be willing to shift your focus from your current circumstances to new possibilities and really put yourself in that space where you allow anything to be possible and let your mind run wild. When we have admissions calls with prospective students, one of the questions we ask all of our prospective students is, how much would you love to earn as a coach? Because if you want to have a coaching business, it's important information for our team to know, and it's important information for you to have. And a lot of coaches, when they're getting started, they say, I don't know. And I said, there's no right or wrong. I don't know it's not possible for you to know, for you to not know, because this is about you deciding whatever you want. So sometimes when you're given a question that really allows you to dream, if you notice that you or your clients hesitate or say, I don't know, or you struggle to come up with something, it means that you have to give yourself permission to believe in new possibilities. You've got to stretch your possibility muscle. Because every decision that you make in your life, you're either maintaining your current circumstances or you're exploring new possibilities. Consider that. Every decision in your life, you're either maintaining your current circumstances or you're exploring and creating new possibilities. So one of the things I tell our coaches when they make decisions and when they help clients make decisions based on the life you want, not the life you have. When you're making a decision, make that decision based on the life you want, not based off of the life you have. Now, here's something else that you may not know about probability versus possibility. Probability comes from the same part of your brain as fear. Think about that. When you focus on probability, it sounds like, well, let's look at your chances of success, and it leaves it up to chance. And your fear loves to feed off of that. Well, your chances are so low. Well, they're not guaranteed. So this is all fear in disguise. Focusing on probability. It's fear. It's fear-based when you live your life just looking at probability. Okay? When you instead focus on possibility, possibility is generated from a different part of your brain. It's the same part of your brain that imagination comes from. When you focus on possibility, it sounds like I can create success no matter my circumstances. I can let anything be possible. I'm allowed to dream. I'm here to be an example of what's possible. I'm here to show myself how it's done. I'm here to live the fullest version of my life. These are all thoughts that create and support that imagination, that possibility. When you are thinking about what's possible, you don't care about what's probable. Possibility does not care about probability. I remember when I was getting started as a coach, there was a lot of people saying, well, you know that only about 4% of businesses make it beyond their third or fifth year. I don't even remember what the statistic was because it's so irrelevant to me, right? I was so focused on the possibility of my success and the impact I can have as a coach, the lives I can change, the money I can make, the life I could live. I was so focused on the possibility of all that I was so excited and so encouraged and so motivated that any kind of statistic like that or probability was not something I devoted any ounce of attention to. So in order to be someone who believes in what's possible, you need to believe in things even when you don't have evidence at first. This is so key. How do you do that? You just picture it in your mind. Your mind doesn't know the difference between what's real and what's not real. So you can picture something so vividly in your brain, and you might not have any evidence of it, but your mind doesn't know the difference. Okay? So I want you to try this out right now. I want you to imagine that you have a lemon in front of you. And I want you to imagine that you are chopping this lemon in half. You're slicing it in half. And you're picking up one half of the lemon, and you're noticing the texture, you're feeling the lemon, you're seeing the bright yellow color of the lemon, you're seeing the juice inside that lemon, you're seeing the seeds, and you're bringing that lemon closer and closer to your mouth, closer and closer. And I want you to imagine that you open up your mouth and you give that lemon a nice squeeze, and you feel the lemon's juice drip onto your tongue, and you feel all of these drops of lemon juice fill up inside of your tongue. Now, did you feel that? Did you feel a little part of your mouth like almost get that same sour sensation that you get when you taste lemon? And I was getting it, even just describing it. I could feel in my tongue that I could actually, I was actually having lemon in my mouth. So the brain doesn't know the difference. When you can focus, and by the way, if that exercise, if you didn't feel anything, it just means you didn't imagine it hard enough. It means that maybe you were distracted by other things. So you can apply this to any goal in your life. If you want to have a difference, a change in your relationships or your health or your business, your coaching business, when you could picture so vividly your success and the possibilities of your success and the possibilities that will be created by your success, then you will be so encouraged to move forward that nothing will get in your way. You will feel it as if it's already real, and you will proceed as if your success is inevitable. By the way, that exercise that I just walked you through with the lemon, that is an example of a tool that we use in coaching called visioning. And there's a process that we teach our coaches on how to use visioning with their clients. It's such an effective tool, and we teach it to you in the academy. So I would hear so many statistics about what it takes to be successful as a coach, and maybe you've heard many different stats about entrepreneurship and business and marketing. Again, just because something is true doesn't mean you have to give your energy or your attention to it. It may be true, but it doesn't need to be your truth. That's something to remind yourself of every single day. Something might be true, but it doesn't need to be your truth, because you are so much more powerful than you realize. You are so much more greater and powerful than you appear to be. You have the privilege of getting to choose what you focus on. That is one of the greatest privileges you have, no matter what kind of human you are. You get to choose what you focus on, what you give your attention to. Now, I want to be super clear here. This is not about you avoiding reality. It's about you creating reality. You're not avoiding reality. You are creating your own reality. Okay, so there's examples of this all over the place. For example, what if someone was diagnosed with cancer and they were given a 10% survival rate, or they were told that 10% of people who have that cancer survive? So what is going to help you more? Focusing on that 10% survival rate or believing in what's possible? There's so much research done that the mental state that a cancer patient has impacts the healing that their body does. It impacts their healing that they go through because of the power of your own mind. There's so much research done on this. You may have also heard that in marriages, the divorce rate is at least 50%. So does that statistic determine the outcome you're going to have in your marriage? No. Does it mean that your marriage is going to have a 50% divorce chance? No. And if you think, yeah, I have whatever relationship or marriage I'm in, there's a 50% chance it's not going to work out, you are giving your power away. You are letting probability determine your life. Focus on possibility. Now, I know a lot of you are listening to this podcast because you're a coach, or you are an aspiring coach, you're about to become a coach. And maybe you've done some Googling around there, trying to Google the success rate of different coaches out there. That is your fear taking control of you. That is you trying to let probability create your success. Probability does not create success. Possibility does. So I want to end with this. Even if you do focus on possibility, let's say that you focus all on the possibility and you still don't get the outcome that you want. Is that really so terrible when you think about it? Don't you want to show up fully to your life anyway? Don't you want to know that you went all in and you gave it your all? That's how you get the greatest lessons in life. That's how you grow the most as a person anyway. And that's what makes life so exciting and meaningful. So there have been so many times in my life where I failed, but I still didn't regret trying and pursuing the goal and putting myself out there. I didn't say, oh, I should have known that the odds were not in my favor. I should have known that there was a low probability anyway. What I look back on my life on and feel most proud of is that I've chased my dreams and the times when I was living an adventurous life and becoming the version of myself that is unrecognizable to the person I was even a year ago. So my invitation for you through this episode is to stop giving your power away to external circumstances. Stop letting your probability determine your life. You have so much more input on your life than you may realize. That's what I got in this episode. Before I go, I'm including a snippet from one of our coaches in the academy so you can hear their story. So enjoy listening to them, and I'll see you in the next episode.
So my name is Barbara Neufeld. I've been unfulfilled in a career for a long time and have been looking for a switch. I spent a lot of time, decades in corporate America. I just couldn't wait for the day to end, right? I watched the clock. I wanted to take breaks. I procrastinated. I could continue doing what I'm doing, and I could provide an income for my family doing that, and I could live an okay life doing that. But I'm not okay with an okay life anymore. I really want to find something, and I have found something now in coaching that brings me joy and happiness, and I want to do it. Back then, at that time, I didn't really think of myself as a coach or that coaching would really be something that I could succeed at or make a career out of. Now, as time went on and I heard about Thriving Coach Academy and I looked into what they had to offer, Thriving Coach Academy doesn't just teach you how to be a coach, it also teaches you how to start a coaching business. So a lot of the programs out there, they don't do that in their curriculum. So going through the program at Thriving Coach Academy, I feel confident to actually start a profitable business in coaching. And I've watched lots of webinars. I've done, grand, like all day, big, huge, tens of thousands of people online, multiple experts coming in and out. And I have never felt that same confidence as I've gotten through Thriving Coach Academy in confidence with starting my own business. So the biggest success that I've had so far since I started Thriving Coach Academy training is believing that I am a coach. Like I am a coach now. I believe I provide value as a coach. And along with that, I have a business plan. I have a business name. I have the process for getting clients. I feel very well positioned at the new year here in just a few weeks to really start my business. In fact, I've gone down in January. So this is December or November. In January, in 2 months, I will reduce my work hours to 2 days a week to 16 hours, not set hours, just 16 hours a week at my freedom of when I work. And then at the end of March, I will quit my current job completely and transition fully into my coaching business. I could not have imagined myself being in this place, even this past spring. So it's really transformed my life. So, when I worked in corporate, there was this security that I'd always have a paycheck coming in, that I'd continue to acquire more and more vacation days the longer I was there and get my periodic raises. And I thought that was the way to get financial freedom, to be able to retire someday and travel. But through coaching, I've learned that there's so much more freedom available out there, right? Through coaching, I'm going to have my own business. I'm going to write my own hours. And there's no cap on what I make. I truly know that I'm going to make more than I ever did in my corporate America job that I thought was so secure and financially profitable. But really, it was holding me back to what potential is available there. And I now have a business plan for coaching, and I'm going to be able to go visit my grandchildren on my timeline. I'm going to have the money to travel. I'm going to be able to continue to build up my retirement. I'm just really looking forward to what this next year brings and beyond. For anyone who is considering joining Thriving Coach Academy School, I would say go for it. It's been amazing. I doubt, going into it, I wasn't sure what kind of connections I'd make. And it's been fabulous. It's been fun. We laugh, we share the love, we learn together, we support one another. So I recommend Thriving Coach Academy to anyone who is feeling stuck in their job, who enjoys connecting with others, who enjoys empowering others and making a difference in the world. Or, if you love your job, but you're managing and not sure, how to manage, and you're struggling with relationships at work or with coaching, your employees, Thriving Coach Academy will give you the tools and the skills to go into the office, into your business, and transfer those into the workplace as well.
Hey, would you like access to powerful coaching tools you can use on yourself and clients right away? For being a listener of the podcast, I'm giving you a VIP guest pass to get a sneak peek into my coach training program. Inside, you'll learn our coach's secret tool they use to transform their clients' lives. And you'll also get a training on how to launch a coaching business. Just head over to www.thrivingcoachacademy.com/VIP to get started. I'll see you on the inside.